Hello and welcome to another anime lore and theory video. I'm Shergok, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at why Overlord is such a masterpiece of an anime and what elevates it from the rest, or at least most of other animes. But before we're going to take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as say thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's get to the topic at hand. Overlord is a story like no other. And today I just want to talk about why Overlord has such an impact, and why the story captivates so many, myself included, while other anime have one or two good seasons and then lose all interest. I want to start with something that many have noticed, namely its incredible consistency. Normally in any anime, no matter how strong the evil one is, with the power of friendship and teamwork, the evil is fought and banished, because love is always stronger than hate, and in the end, the good always win. This is also the case in Overlord, as Einzulgurn's Sorcerer Kingdom simply rewrites history to its liking. Seriously though, standing on the morally right side, being the underdog, and being the good guy doesn't help you in Overlord at all. The story does not suddenly take your side or favor you. You do not awaken some hidden powers within you to fight the evil. Instead you die. If you're lucky. In Overlord, political power, power politics, intrigues, and power imbalances are important and determine the action and the outcome of things, and not wishful thinking. The plot is completely logically constructed and does not look at how things should be and where the good guys are that must win in all cases. Instead, each character behaves according to their own nature, personality, their strengths and weaknesses, and finds themselves in certain situations, with our subsequent events logically built up upon them. Unlike in Game of Thrones, where Daenerys Targaryen does not go to King's Landing with her 3 super weapons, her 3 dragons, and 100,000 men to kill the evil queen, because Tyrion apparently had an aneurysm that apparently has halved his IQ. In Overlord, the Dark Young coldly exterminate a peasant army in sight of so-called allies, to counter an empire's intrigue by demonstrating overwhelming power. This even caused the supposedly allied Baharut Empire's legions to panic and to flee in disgrace, and then beg their emperor to never start a war with the Sorcerer Kingdom, and always seek a diplomatic solution to any conflict, significantly undermining the plan to unite the world against Ainz. Even though this war was overkill and arguably evil from Einzulgurn's side, something that Einzulgurn also has realized, it did not stop the war, the Dark Young from being summoned, and all of the death from happening, because it was the logical next step. Overlord does not shy away from the consequences of the protagonist's power. He has the power to annihilate entire countries and feels no pity for the living and the outsiders of Nazarick anymore. Thus he uses this power, of course, when the situation demands it. The atrocities that exist in the world of Overlord are also not glossed over or sugar-coated. Expect perhaps by us who still talk about the Happy Farm. And they are neither censored nor prettied up, just shown as the logical consequence of the actions of the characters, and especially described in great detail in the books. And the new Overlord movie also does not shy away from depicting some of the most brutal scenes from the books either. And also, violence is not an end in itself. It is not a gore fest or anything like that. It is just raw and realistic, even if the world is in a high fantasy setting. Moreover, it is clear how good the world building is. Overlord is not your standard isekai just because of its story, but because the world has depth. It is not shallow world building that falls apart under close inspections, but something that can be thoroughly examined and truly has more than meets the eye to it. The whole world is internally consistent and logically constructed. And on this channel, I said over half a decade ago that the theocracy of Slain was also likely behind the Adventurer Guild, simply because the guild's goal is to protect humanity from its many predators, from demi-humans and heteromorphs, which is 100% in line with the policies of the theocracy, which does more or less the same thing. And I was right. Not because I'm so good at predicting the future, but because the world is so well constructed that you can see the next brick coming, like in Tetris. And I just want to give you a few examples of pretty obscure lore that fits well together. Why has the dwarf in runecraft magic been gradually replaced by tier magic over the last 200 years? Well, they had a friendship treaty with the young Baharut Empire, and by that time, Fluda Paradane was already the court magician in the still young empire. In other words, even back then, the nation was increasingly influenced by magic and magic casters, which must have had an effect on the dwarves and their own runecraft. Why do dark elves no longer live in the great forest of Top? Probably because of the tree monster Sutil Quay. Why does Clementine wear bikini armor made from the dog tags of fallen adventurers? Because she's a sadist who gets off on scaring and horrifying people, and because she would never have gotten past Zeshi, who guards her proper armor. That of the 6 great gods that founded the theocracy 600 years ago. Why is the kingdom of re-estize so decadent? Because it never had to take care of its defense and its economy, while the empire had to consistently fight for survival and would have collapsed multiple times without Fluda Paradane. Why was Albedo so surprised by Philip's illogical actions? Well, because the actions of a clever person like that of Jerknif are easier to predict than the foolish actions of a single complete idiot. It's so brilliant to see how the world effortlessly fits together and how everything is interconnected. This is also why one can speculate about the reasons why the players came to the new world, how the theocracy was 500 years ago, when it was led by Sorshana, the last of the remaining players, and so much more. But let's move on to the next point, because Overlord has something that many anime don't manage to incorporate: an incredibly good cast of side characters who are interesting, can stand on their own, and make you want to know more about them. What is up with the Imperial Knight and her pus-oozing eye right here? What deal does she have with Jerknif? What will happen with Fluda? Will he become an Elder Lich? What will become of Nea Baraya? How will the story of the Golden Princess end? What is Albedo planning? Does Demiurge know what Albedo is planning? What role will Pandora's actor play in all of this? What does Platinum Dragonlord plan? How will Einsoul go and fight against him? What about Draudilon Auriculus? About her great-grandfather and her Dragon Kingdom? What is next for Skama Albero and her perverse priestesses? What will become of Zeshi? What about the rest of the Black Scripture? What will happen to the theocracy now that Ainz knows they were behind the attack on Sheltier Bloodfallen? And so much more. The characters in the Kingdom of re-estize alone are so well written and interesting that you could tell a good story just from their perspective. The impending civil war, the Blue Roses and their connections to Platinum through Regret, Evil Eye's story, the 8 Fingers, and how they drive the kingdom into the abyss, Azud Aender and his armor, Emperor Jerknif as an incredibly good ruler and opponent to King Ramposa, the succession dispute, and of course about people like Henry Emmott, who are at the very bottom and have to live with the consequences of these politics, or rather die because of them. Someone like Lakius, Evil Eye, or even Climb could all be a main character, the protagonist of the anime, especially since Climb does not win in the end with the power of friendship, but is tricked, incapacitated, and then tamed by Renna, which is a nice subversion at the end, followed by a lot of submission. Only a few other anime and manga, like One Piece or Mushoku Tensei, manage to have a cast this interesting and diverse, and that's why everyone finds a character they can sympathize with, or at least a player these they find hot. Entoman in a bug form. And a character they hate and finally want to see happy farmed. Furthermore, Overlord does something that many anime don't do. It remains true to its core thesis, the premise, the reason why one originally started watching or reading Overlord. Let me contrast this with another anime. The Shield Hero from Legend of the Shield Hero initially is the total outsider, unjustly despised, judged, and ostracized by society, who has to clear his name and due to his treatment has become morally grey, doing both good and bad things. Additionally, as the Shield Hero, without someone to go on the offensive, he is practically useless, making his outsider role even more fatal for him. However, these very interesting main conflicts were relatively quickly resolved, and the rest is then just standard isekai. What initially started to draw someone into the Shield Hero story is simply no longer there. Expect maybe for Raphtalia. Overlord, on the other hand, maintains this very tension. Ainz is still lonely and his inner conflict is still not resolved. He also hasn't found any of his friends yet. No one except maybe one person can see behind his facade as the undead Overlord. And Ainz still doesn't know who was behind the attack on Shelty Bloodfallen. At least not in the anime. And in the light novels, the actual main conflict with the Theocracy only begins in the upcoming Volume 17. And the first conscious contact with the Platinum Dragonlord himself, disguised as Rico Aganea, only happened in Volume 14, or at the end of Season 4. One of the reasons why the involvement of Ainz Gon is so characteristic and doesn't feel like a typical Deus Ex Machina moment is also because we empathize and suffer with the side characters. Seba's hands were tied for almost 2 volumes before Nezarec moved out with full force and punished and subdued the 8 Fingers. And during that time we got the Climb story arc, Renna was officially introduced as the deranged Yandere princess she definitely is. Several other characters like Evil Eye, Garzav and Raven had important scenes. And the weaknesses and inherent mortality of these side characters made it still exciting to see what would happen and who would survive until Ainz Gon intervenes. Because Ainz Gon indeed has the power to resurrect somebody, like Climb after the lost duel against him. But why should he waste valuable resources if it doesn't benefit him? At Enri's parents' grave and their funeral, it was clear that Ainz had no interest in wasting resources that could serve Nezarec just to bring back the parent of a then insignificant peasant girl. At the same time, Ainz Gon does not necessarily differentiate between friend and foe. People who have read Volume 12 will know what I mean. In other words, even if everyone, at any time, could be resurrected, everyone can also die at any time, as long as they are weak enough. And as long as they are useless enough, Ainz usually won't care about the loss, but rather think about how to use their end for his own ends, as in the case of the Swords of Darkness. In other words, the anime does not shy away from showing morally grey or evil characters without condemning them through the story and making them lose, because what they do is evil and we can't permit that. Overlord's story shows, illustrates and describes what happens, instead of condemning and preaching what is wrong or right. And while Ainz Gon might be safe, and not in any real danger most of the time, all of the other interesting characters are. So watching Ainz Gon is like watching a disaster movie, and you're just following the catastrophe. And with that said, that's it for today, and now it's your turn. What is your opinion of the anime and what I've just said? Let me know it down in the comment section. And while you're typing, I say thank you very much for watching. I say also thanks to all of my Patreons for supporting this channel, and special thanks to Other Daddy Other, ASK, Bad Guy Yi, Bad Burrito 316, Beezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Dinpep, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Firalshivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Moreno, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Loverazor, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, Oh Kill, Overlord General Gaspar, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Cune Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Zinukai, and Sonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.